Hello and welcome to the first episode of Slightly Mental Podcast. Today I have with me two absolute legends, Tommy and Andy from Mana Podcast. Hello, gentlemen. How are you today? Woo!
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Rock and roll.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you want us to elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, if you could. Yeah, in the spirit of mental health. Yeah, let's have a proper answer. Let's not just say, yeah, I'm fine, mate.
Okay, well, from my point of view, today's been a good day.
Awesome.
I've been feeling quite chipper today. It's not been a great month, if I'm honest, but today and yesterday I felt a little bit more myself. So that is the honest answer.
Fantastic. What about you, Tommy?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm I'm doing really well actually. We've had a really busy week, haven't we? We've been recording sort of back-to-back podcasts. We had the weekly Zoom, sorry, not Zoom, the weekly Man Up sort of check-in session, which is on Wednesday, yesterday. And then yeah, today I've been to the gym, I've done some work, been in the garden with the kids. So it's been, I'm in really good spirits as well. And I'm feeling massively honored that you've invited us to be your very first guests.
And man, the honor is mine. I'm super happy and super excited. You were all straight from the bat when I decided actually to do it, because I was sitting on this idea for years now. You were my first guest. So yeah. My first question is about your Mana podcast. Why did you decide to call it Mana Podcast?
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't realise that it's an ironic name. We do get the odd person who doesn't understand that it's an ironic name, because we would never tell someone to man up, because that is literally the worst thing you can say to a man when he's suffering mentally. So it's just a sort of ironic, slightly. I mean, our whole sort of unique selling point is we're quite humorous about mental health. Now, that doesn't mean we laugh at people who are going through a really bad time. Quite the opposite. And we do get into really serious subject matter, but we do try and have a good laugh around it, because we feel like it diminishes the power of mental health suffering if you can laugh at it a little bit. So in the spirit of that, the Man Up name is a sort of semi-ironic, sort of slightly jokey name. Yeah.
So to challenge the old stereotype and that old narrative that men shouldn't feel sorry for themselves or shouldn't have any problems. You shouldn't talk about your problems and feelings and emotions. You should just man up and keep going.
It's awful, isn't it? It's awful. How many times have you heard someone say it to you or had it said to you? And I've said it to people when I was younger, man up, man up. And it's disgusting. And people that are manning up, they're, without, getting quite serious straight, off the bat, people are manning up so much that, sending them to an early grave.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are definitely not about that whole man up thing. We are very open with what we talk about, and it's a talking point as well, because like Ken said, people do get in touch with us and they're quite up in arms. Man up, are you serious? That's disgraceful. I'm like, have you? No. Okay, just it's it is.
Yeah, definitely. And what Andy said is it's the conversation about mental health is also, the subject matter is very serious, but the conversation sometimes is like somebody farted in the room. I always say that because people understand it. It's very awkward and uncomfortable, isn't it? So I love the fact that you want to introduce a little bit of sense of humor around the subject, because that would make it easier to talk about it.
Especially, yeah, well, depends if it's a silent and violent fart. They're the worst, They're
I almost spat my coffee.
No, it's very true. I mean, I guess it's like, when you look at like religion, when you look at something like Christianity, if I used to go to church when I was younger, actually.
Yeah.
Now I would rather go into a church where they're there like the gospel churches, where they're singing, dancing with a tambourine, playing funky music, you know, full of joy, than going into the church when they're like, oh, you will die if you don't follow us, you know. So it's that I think it attracts more people if you're, you know, if you're at least sort of lively and engaging, you know, not joking all the time, but lively and engaging, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Tommy, any takes on that?
No, I fully agree, because, you know, obviously we know as men it's not always easy for us to express ourselves, and you know, I hate the word taboo and stuff like that, but it is still quite a taboo subject. We don't do it so freely. So with us, sort of the way we approach it, you know, it's like an accessible conversation to any and everybody. And yeah, we do have a laugh, we do enjoy ourselves, because actually it's almost like therapy. And like occasionally we do podcasts, just the two of us, and it's just well, we're friends now, so we, you know, we can be quite open and honest about stuff. And when one of us having a crap time, we'll talk about it. And quite often we end up sort of like, you know, playing through it and like, oh, actually, fucking hell, what am I actually worrying about? Do you know what I mean? So when it's an accessible conversation, when it's easy, a bit more light-hearted, you know, we're not like, how are you feeling emotionally today, Andy? How's, you know, we're not like that. It's, yeah, shit. This is what I think I need to do to try to fix it, you know, and it works for us, and I think it works for our listeners as well.
I love the podcast that you record two of you only without any guests. No, the guest ones are good as well, but you bounce off each other so great. I listened just before we came on. I listened to your Christmas special when Andy was saying that you became a bit of a legend in Estonia. You're like, yeah, I'm a bit of a legend, and you sort of have a laugh and giggle, and I think that's what it's about. As you say, it makes the whole conversation more accessible. So my question is, what was your personal experience with mental health?
Shall I start with that one, Tommy?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so my personal experience with mental health is chronic anxiety and panic attacks, basically. So in my mid-20s, I was quite ill with a bad cold or the flu, and being young, I just pushed on through and I exhausted myself. And whilst I was exhausted, I had the feeling that I was having a heart attack, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I ended up going to hospital, and I didn't know what a panic attack was at the time. You know, like 25 years ago, no one really discussed mental health or things like panic attacks. So I was like, I thought I was going to die. So I was taken off into a hospital. As soon as I got there, they checked me out, and then they just gave me a paper bag and said, breathing, because that regulates your breathing. And so my mind was blown. And then all of a sudden, from this sort of man, this man who was completely like immortal, untouchable, I suddenly became a fallible human being that was prone to something that was out of my control. And so I developed anxiety. I couldn't sleep because of it. And it got worse and worse, to the point where, you know, I had to take quite strong medication, but they gave me antidepressants, you know. And then throughout the you know, the following years and years and decades, I had sort of spells of being all right, but then being bad again and being back on medication. So about 4 years ago, I decided to try and understand exactly what was going on and try and approach it in a holistic way. So as well as doing all the things that everyone talks about online, you know, the meditations, the exercise, the diet, and things
cold
like that.
Showers.
Well, I haven't quite got to the cold showers yet. That's next. That's coming up next. Yeah. Because I read in a book actually that as well as, yeah, because of the Wim Hof thing, that it actually restores your cells. It's actually anti-aging. It actually I know you're quite big into that, aren't you, Sam? The old
Yeah, an interesting thing is, since I started taking cold showers, which was probably 2 years ago, I haven't been sick once, not even a little bit. And before that, that's exactly main reason why I got into it, because I would catch a cold every like 2-3 months. I'm like, I'm not really that old yet. It shouldn't be happening. Let's try something. And with the hand on my heart, I haven't had a cold or a flu since I started, so it's working.
How cold? So we're changing the I'm now the questioner. But how cold? How cold are these showers? I mean, like literally, and how long do you go in for?
Well, it depends. Usually I'll have like 2 to 5 minutes, but the longest one I've done was, I think, 11 minutes. And I go to the bottom of my
Oh,
tap, So what I usually
right.
do, I start just have a normal shower, wash myself, and then I switch into a cold water, and just embrace it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Tommy, what's your
You're
experience
great.
with mental health, my good
Very,
sir?
very nice. Yeah. So I think I was quite happy-go-lucky in my sort of youth, and I think I was an expert at ignoring things.
Mm,
And as I got older, I started to party a bit more, drinking, using recreational drugs, and just basically anything to sort of stop me from thinking or overthinking things.
mm,
Um, I found out I was going to become a dad, and like many men, obviously the partying stops, and the drinking, the drugs stopped, and all of a sudden I had a lot of emotions and feelings that I'd been suppressing that I hadn't dealt with, and it really sort of came on top. Then I was starting to sort of panic, work harder, try to earn more money. I was going to be a dad. I needed to had all these questions, like have I have I can I buy a house? Am I going to be good enough? Can I be responsible for this sort of new life that is imminent arrival? And it just all got on top of me. And like a lot of men, I didn't really have the knowledge or the wisdom to talk about things. So I just, bottled it up, bottled it up, bottled it up. And it just sort of really everything got on top of me. And I guess over a period of sort of three, 3 or 4 years, it just steadily got worse. It got heavier and heavier to the point where I was going to work and I wasn't functioning properly at work because I was going home. My wife, I think, just thought I didn't care because I wasn't talking, but I wasn't myself. I wasn't the man that she met anyway. And it just got to a point where things got so heavy and I started, my thought process got so dark that I started thinking that it's probably be better for everybody if I wasn't here,
mm,
Started having the thoughts of would it be better for my wife if I was dead? Would it be better if my kids had another man as their father? And and it just got to a point where I ended up just having a complete sort of like meltdown in front of my wife. She was on my case because I think she just felt like I was distant. I think she
yeah.
wanted to know if I still cared or loved her. So she was really, almost goading me like, what's wrong? You're not a man. You're not this. Because she just thought I didn't. How can I can't articulate it. Obviously, she just with my lack of ability to communicate how I was feeling, she just took that of me just being distant. Maybe I loved
Mm,
somebody else. Maybe I didn't love her. So she was angry. She was hurt. She was upset. And it got to a point where I just blurted it all out. I just told her that I just felt worthless and I didn't want to be here. And, maybe it'd be better if I wasn't around for her and the kids. And it was that sort of outpouring of truth. And actually, for the first time being vulnerable in front of my wife, that she kind of understood it. And rather than her looking at me and thinking, that I wasn't a man. Because that was my biggest fear, because men have got to be strong, they've got to protect their women, they've got to make
yeah.
money. And yeah, in that vulnerability, it kind of just changed everything. Started to communicate, we started to work together, and we became a team again. And that's how, I got into recovery. And sort of much like Andy, I went more holistic with my approaches, meditation, yoga, outdoors, nature, read-proof my mindset. And yeah, and the rest, as I say, is history.
Awesome. I want to comment on what you said about considering that maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe everybody else will be better off. You always wouldn't if I wasn't here. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people can't understand about people who take their own life or consider suicide, because a lot of people say that suicide is selfish, but actually you don't understand the other side, that somebody is not doing that. Oh, I hate my parents, I'm gonna show them and I'm gonna kill myself. It's about feeling that you're just a burden to everybody, and if you were not here, everybody will be better off. So I think that's the first key point when it comes to suicide, that we need
Yeah, absolutely
people.
spot on. Yeah, and I I think I can't remember what it was, but this statistic said that most people, when they find suicide notes and stuff, that's the overwhelming thing, that they feel they're a burden. They feel like they're better, and it's not a selfish thing. And yeah, people do have a hard time sort of understanding that, but it's what it is. And man, I mean, to this day, we're still talking about suicides, and people are still getting to the point where they are not talking, or they feel that that's their only option. And this is why, stuff like you doing your podcast and us doing what we do in the weekly chats is so important, because there are other options and they don't have to involve your life ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why we do a specifically men only one, not because we're sexist pigs, it's because
I never said that.
it's because 3/4 of all suicides are male.
Yes.
So there's something gone wrong there. So
and it's
we're trying to get men talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's surprising, because very often you would think that wimpy kid, that skinny guy, will be the one potentially thinking about taking his life. Blah, blah, blah. But the majority of men that I've met that have these kind of problems with anxiety, depression, and all that, are surprisingly somebody that you would think he's like a proper man, strong guy. And you think, how is that possible? And this all comes down to what we mentioned before. It's about talking about your emotions, talking about what you're struggling with, being open and vulnerable. And obviously it leads to, just man up and don't be a prick, just be a real man.
Yeah.
That's a fucking bollocks. Andy, was there any one thing that had the biggest effect on your sort of road to recovery and making your anxiety better?
There were a few sort of light bulb moments. One of them was reading a book, which I keep going on and on about, called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. That gave me that notion that it's how you live your life and how you set up your life in key areas that has such a profound effect on your mind you don't realize. So, for instance, if you go to work to a place that you hate, and you're doing that day in, day out, you don't, like, you might, on the surface level, you might not even hate it that much. You might be, it's all right, it's an office job, or whatever, but that's slowly eating you on the inside. And the sort of cumulative effect that can have on you is what a lot of people don't really sort of think about until it's too late. And it looks at loads of other areas how you could look at life, like things like setting up a tree. Where we come from, right back to caveman times, where we're in tribes and hunter gatherers, and it's only in the recent, like, last 1,000 years or whatever, or even less than that, that we've sort of come away to these sort of isolated groups, or or where we're on our own, and so it's really important, even if you're not in a family or married or something, but to set up a sort of tribe around you. So that was one big thing for me. Another big thing for me was meditation. Because I know it's a cliche thing to say, but soon as I started doing that made a huge difference. So I went to a meditation weekend, and And as soon as I started doing that, within a few weeks, I came off my medication the first time. I'm not the best meditator, I have to say. I'm sort of easily distracted. So I've gone through lots of different phases. You know, I do transcendental meditation now, but I'm sort of, you know, I go from one thing to another. But that was a massive thing to me. And diet. Just looking at how the gut affects the brain, that was a really big thing for me. So I cut out sugar from my diet as much as I can, and that really did make a big difference. So I think those three things were the real one, and getting therapy as well. I mean, I had therapy for a year. You know, you can't discount. So there wasn't one amazing thing, but those, I guess, those four things were the things that really helped.
And what about you, Tommy? What were the things that helped you the most on your way to recovery?
Cool. I think, well, the turning point was, like I said, when I had that outpouring of emotion and actually allowed myself, you know, to be vulnerable in front of my wife and tell her the truth and be open. And once that happened, it was like for all that time and trying to deal with by myself, you know, it was like I like it's like a pressure cooker valve, you know, like the pressure cooker. Tss, and as soon as it happened, like, oh, it was just all wow. Actually, that's amazing. And then once, you know, I spoke about it, we kind of started exploring things together, you know, looking at different practices, people, you know, Tony Robbins and stuff like that, you know, mindset and things, which was really, really good. And then I think probably the biggest thing that I did that really helped was I found the Miracle Morning. And I think most people may have heard of it by now, but it's the practice of waking up an hour earlier than you normally would. And you sort of take part in some things that really just help you to grow. It's like personal development. So like Andy mentioned, meditation, there's exercise in there. So I wasn't exercising, but, you know, I started doing yoga in the mornings, which was amazing. Reading and, you know, just being mindful of what I was taking in. Like I stopped watching news and stuff like that and, you know, reading newspapers, but like reading books on being happy, you know, books on, you know, how to thrive and then, you know, visualization. What, you know, what did I want to achieve? Where did I want to go? Who did I want to be? Because I just felt for when I was, you know, in my depression and I was really suffering, I was just sort of like being dragged along by the currents. So when I started, you know, setting roots and thinking, right, what do I want to do? Who am I? What do I want to achieve? Not what am I just going to accept? You know, it was a real game changer. Sort of like I through that being open and allow myself to be vulnerable, I kind of took control. That makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome. So from what you're saying, I can relate to that. A lot of it is self-discovery and personal development. And the problem I see with people that I spoke to about anxiety and depression is we live in times where we either believe that there's one magical pill or one solution to your problem that you have to find. There's one thing that you do and it solves all your problem. But the reality is that if you want to have a better life, actually you have to first make some changes, and usually that changes in different areas of your life because they fit together. And definitely that was the case in my life when I was going through anxiety and almost check out of this world, you know, smash my face on the proverbial rock bottom. Yeah, so I want to ask you about your weekly meetings that you do with the men. What do you think is the main reason that the guys connect with you? What are they looking for?
Well, I personally, I think, I mean, we started it during lockdown because the first lockdown way back in, was it March last year?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so everything kind of shut down and we were getting a lot of messages through our social media channel of, you know, fellas that were really struggling. And, you know, and we just sort of, we said, look, let's do a weekly chat, you know. We didn't know who was going to turn up, if anybody. We said, you know, we'll get together, just, you know, create a space where guys can come and talk and just, you know, feel safe. And I just think that exactly that, it's a safe space. It's a safe space for guys to get together. There's no judgment. There's no, I mean, we don't lead it. It's not like we're interviewing anybody. Sometimes we have like 5 or 6 blokes on there and everyone's feeling great. And we just have a chat and a laugh. Other times there's, you know, there might be somebody who's really suffering or going through crisis, and we'll just hold space for that person. But ultimately, it's just a nice, safe space where people can come and just talk. They can, if they want to just listen and, you know, take things from the meeting, they can. And it's just been, well, it's almost like therapy for us as well. I think it's quite selfish. We both get quite a lot from it, don't we, Andy?
Yeah, we do. I really look forward to it every week. You know, sometimes like I don't feel like I'm up to it. You know, like of recent weeks, I've not had a great sort of winter, if I'm honest, and sometimes I don't feel up to it. But always, I'm so glad afterwards. I'm so glad that I've done it. You know, sometimes I don't really say much. I just sort of, you know, some other people speak. Sometimes I've got quite a lot to say, and it's the same thing with everyone. We've got our sort of regulars, so it's almost like going into like a virtual pub with men that have got no bravado. You know, it's like the best pub in the world. Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
yeah, come on, let's big it up. Let's big it up.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
The best
Well,
pub
there's no alcohol. There's no chance of any violence or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
No, you just everyone just sort of comes in. We don't know who's going to join. You know, like last night's one, someone totally new joined who had he was really interesting. He had loads to say. 1 week, it could be like loads of people. All of a sudden, 1 week, this man from America joined in, and you know he turned out to be so interesting. We had him on a podcast. It's really good. I'm really glad we do it. I mean, we don't push it too much. We don't really. Sometimes we'll advertise it a bit on our on our Instagram page, but we're not trying to make it something where there's like sort of 100 blokes on there or something, because I don't think that would work too much. At the moment, it's quite the right level. Everyone has something to say, and you know, the most we've ever had on there is about 13, 14 people. And then any more than that, I think it gets a bit like, you know, someone starts talking and then, you know, so I think at the level we've got it is great. But yeah, anyone listening to your podcast or watching this, they're more than welcome to come and join for sure.
Yeah, definitely. When we release this, I definitely want to put a link to that where they can find you. And I can attest to that because I joined you a few times, and it's exactly what you say. There's no sort of set agenda, and whatever comes up for anybody. And it's like, you know, like when you go to the gym, you can feel the testosterone in the air, right? It's like, "Ugh!" But in there, there's just none of that. The guys are really there to support each other and have a conversation about whatever comes up, you know. And as you say, sometimes somebody has a problem and let's focus on that. And sometimes they just have a few jokes and spend some time together, which is brilliant. So how are you dealing with the pandemic? It's been almost a year, and it's challenging, I think, for everybody, but we all have different ways of dealing with it. How you guys dealing with it? Let's start with Tommy because he raised his hand
first. So I hate to say this, but I'm in Estonia in the countryside. So I'm kind of quite, I'm away from it completely. So whenever I sort of tune in and talk to Andy or like the guys on the Zoom calls, and they're like, yeah, we're locked down, we're this, we're that. I'm like, oh man, like I've just been shopping in town and went motocrossing with the kids, and there was a gathering at the end of the road. So I feel I'm very blessed at the minute. I don't, you know, I'm not dealing with that. You know what you guys are going through, but I'm definitely feeling for, you know, friends and family back in the UK when I'm hearing what's going on. So I thought I'd get out of the way quickly, so then, you know, you're not going to wait and be disappointed. Now Andy can let you know how hard it really is.
Me, on the other hand. Oh my God. I mean, I had bit of a podcast recently, which is going to come out very soon, and I listened back to it actually, and I thought, yeah, I do sound like a little bit of a moaner, but then I thought, well, you know, if you can't sort of express how you feel on a men's mental health podcast, you know, then when can you do it? So yeah, January's been really tough for me. I live on my own. I can't see my parents at the moment, who I'm in the bubble with, because my mum is really scared of the high levels of the virus. So I work on my own as well. I'm a freelancer, so I've got like 3 levels of sort of isolation going on. The more I spend on my own with anxiety, and you know, you'll both know this, fellas, the more time you spend on the own, the more you self-talk, and the more you become a little bit, you sort of G yourself up a bit and get into anxious cycles. So I felt the anxiety coming back again, and I've had IBS as well, because I suffer from that a little bit. So it's been really tough. But the good thing is, because of all the work I've been doing and things like our podcast and all the research I've been doing, I bounce back a lot quicker. You know, years ago, if I had a spell where I had like anxiety and, you know, bad headaches and IBS, I would sort of probably have a bit of a meltdown. But now I bounce back a hell of a lot quicker. Like sometimes the next day, I just think, oh, I had a shit couple of days, you know. So it has been shit. And also, you know, we're coming into the warmer months. The days are getting longer. More of the population's getting vaccinated. The levels are going right down. We're starting to talk about opening up schools again. We're starting to talk about possibly opening up gyms and things like that, you know. So I think things are only going to get better. So, you know, and I'm very grateful for what I do have. I'm very grateful for my house and like that. So, yeah, personally, it's not been the best one, especially the last lockdown, but I remain positive.
Awesome. I think that's the first most important thing, and it feels almost like being in a movie, isn't it? It's almost like so surreal, such a surreal situation. If somebody would tell me 3 years ago that this will happen, I'll never believe them. I'll tell them to go home and sober up.
Is that movie Groundhog Day by any chance? Or
Yeah, it's part of that, and then
Truman Show, maybe.
yeah, Truman Show. Yeah, a bit of Alcatraz if you're in UK.
Do you know what? I just want to touch something, Andy. When you said you bounce back a lot quicker, I really like that, because we've discussed quite a lot as the podcast has sort of grown and we've grown. We talk about our toolbox, and you know, the different, you know, things we've got in our toolbox that can help us, you know, to get back on the level if we have a wobble and stuff like that. And it's really nice to hear you say that, and I think it's really encouraging as well that when you do the work, you know, read the books, do the studying, like be inquisitive about what's going on mentally, because you will find tools and things that help you to recover quicker, whether it be exercise, whether it be, I don't know, meditation, yoga, whatever it is, cold showers. There's things that will help you, can, like, you know, really give you that boost that you need to sort of get back onto the, you know, the level.
Yeah. It's true.
Definitely.
In fact, or well, you're listing something there. Or how about this? How about my vibrating pebble? Have you seen it?
Oh, got it. No. Here we go.
Vibrating pebble. I'm very curious.
So I've got this thing. It's called Sensate, yeah. And what it is, it goes with an app, and you put it on your chest, and you listen to these sort of sounds, and it vibrates with the sound on your vagus nerve.
Okay.
Yeah. So check that out. It's expensive. I think a little bit overpriced in my opinion, but that's what I'm doing at the moment. Anything that helps. You know?
Absolutely.
Get yourself a vibrating pebble.
Wow.
We should
first, play. You heard it here first.
we should have a sponsored link in here.
I was going to say, how much money are you getting for that plug, Andy?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next question is, you have recently been, you've reached the next level of being legends. You've been on a newspaper, a national newspaper. I wanted to ask you, how was the experience, and and has it had any effect on your podcast or everything that you do in the mental health space?
Well, do you know what? It actually, if I'm being honest, it has, because as soon as the article came out, we've received emails from, was it publicists, I guess, agents and things wanting us to feature some of their clients and things. So, we've had a few invitations, and we're lining up some guests now. I know all of our guests are important, but I guess from a point of view of people that are a bit more prominent in, the media, or how would I describe it? Celebrities almost.
Yeah.
I guess. So we've had, like, people reaching out with, would we have them on and stuff like that. Obviously we're still really humble. We're still really down to earth. We're kind of big deals now. So you're lucky that you got us on the podcast, mate.
Yeah, man. I had to call your assistant, you don't know how many times, and beg her to book me an appointment with you two guys.
Basically, before we were little fish in a big sea. I think now we're sort of we're sort of juvenile fish in a big sea. We're not quite on the on the Z list celebrity. You definitely won't see us in an episode of Towie or something like that. But you never know. One day
you'll get there. But I agree, there's a lot of humor in it. But I agree with you, Tommy, that you're sort of very down to earth guys, and I very fondly look at the at my memories of going to London and recording a podcast with you when you were still in the studio. It was really great experience, especially that you had that proper studio and you walk in like, this guy's mean business. Yeah. That was really cool, it was really good.
Yeah.
And look at us now. Now we're on your podcast, mate. Look at that.
Yeah. I'm not quite as important as you, but hopefully one day.
You're not quite as important as you're right. I mean, get back to the box, mate. We are big deals. I told you, we're kind of big deals.
Yeah, to be honest, we're your first guests. It's only going to go downhill from here, really. You've basically started at the top, so...
I can tell it to 25 people that I have lined up to interview. I'm going to say, don't have too big aspirations, because we have already peaked at episode 1. So
peaked too early, mate. You've peaked far too early.
Maybe my strategy was not good enough. Damn it. I need to rethink it.
God.
Gentlemen, what's next for Mana Podcast, and what's next for you? Are you having do you have any plans to do anything different in the space of men's mental health?
Well, yeah, before this blasted pandemic, we had lots of sort of plans. When we had plans to do a retreat, to do some talks. We actually were lined up. We were lined up to do some live things, but that went out the window. So when we're allowed to sort of physically meet again, I think that sort of thing still on the cards. We'd like to do some sort of book one day, which will be good. Definitely want to keep doing these podcasts and getting sort of more and more guests and building up our base for that. So yeah, what else, Tommy?
I think you just sort of hit the nail right on the head. You said it all. So yeah, the book would be a really nice idea. That's definitely something we want to start working on. And yeah, once COVID kind of releases us from the prison, well, you guys, I'm free as a bird. Yeah, it would be really nice to sort of go out and do the talks and stuff. I've already sort of started doing a few of them out here in Estonia, but obviously there's only one half of the Man Up team. So yeah, we're waiting patiently to be released from the clutches of COVID, so we can go out and really sort of spread the word.
Definitely would be a great idea to get all these guys that join your podcast and your weekly meetings, get them together and go for a retreat. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, and get some speakers along. Keep the costs right down. Cook some nice food, ban any alcohol. And just have do some yoga and things like that, and just sort of like, I don't know. And in the evenings, watch some documentaries or things like that. I think like just for a couple of nights, it'll be a really nice thing to do, I think.
Have some psilocybin or DMT.
Yeah.
meet Buddha and Jesus.
Yeah, whatever. Let's not invite him, Tommy. Let's not invite him.
Talking about it sounds awesome. We actually spoke about doing it here in Estonia, didn't we? Because where I've moved, like I said, I'm smack bang in the middle of nowhere. I think there's like 80 people maximum that live in the village that I live in, and there's like a lake in front of my house. So, you know, in the summer it's beautiful. We go and swim in there every day. Talking about ice showers and Wim Hof. I cut a big hole out of the ice with a friend of mine here, and we did like the ice diving and stuff like that. So, you know, we might even just set some tents up in the back garden and stuff like that, and just keep it, like I said, keep it really simple, and just a space where we can just relax, you know, and just do good stuff again without any of the bravado or any of the nonsense that goes with the rat race and trying to get ahead of everyone.
I'm not doing no tent, right? What I want you to do, what I want you to do is to build some chalets, you know, proper chalets with all the mod cons, you know, for everyone in there, air conditioning. Then I'll think about it.
Andy wants Premier Inn and Lenny Henry welcoming him.
Well, you know, he's a big deal now. This is what happened. He's changed since we've been in the newspaper. He's changed, isn't he?
It's true what they say. Fame changes people.
He's changed.
Call my agent. Call my agent.
Definitely. May, I did so many times. It was really hard to get the two of you at the same time. I'm joking. Anyway, it sounds like a great idea. It's almost like going back to the roots a little bit, like stripping away all the daily bullshit. And that's why I love hiking, because you get away from all the sort of complications of your life. You just go, it's you against the mountain or wherever you want to hike, and you connect with yourself and nature back again. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I really want to go to Estonia. I've, you know, all the things that Tommy's shown me online, you know, I really want to do it. You know, I'll have my vaccine passport.
You're all invited. You're all invited.
Awesome.
Actually, speaking of hiking, I went hiking on the 1st of January out here. And you know, like black people, we don't hike. That's not our thing. You know, that's we don't do that. But it was actually not terrible. I quite enjoyed it. It was not bad.
I love how he said it was actually not terrible.
Black people don't hike. I've not heard that one before.
Have you ever seen a black man hiking? Just putting it out there.
I don't think I have, actually.
Exactly. People looking at me like this.
That's so weird. I've never even.
Hello.
Yeah, but
especially in Estonia, you must be like sort of a celebrity.
I am a complete celebrity in my little village of 80 people.
Awesome.
I am. Yeah, I love it. I love being the only black guy out here. It's great. I mean, in the towns and cities, there's a few more of my brothers, but you know, yeah, where I am here, it's just me.
He's the Black Russian. That's what you're known as, isn't it?
Black Russian.
That's what I've dubbed myself, the Black Russian.
The Black Russian. Cool, man. You need a cool nickname. Awesome. You're having I see your posts on Facebook mainly, and I'm really jealous of the winter that you have in there. And then you sledding and motocrossing and all that stuff. I miss Eastern European winter.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah, you know all about it, right? But yeah, apparently they've not had a winter like this for quite a few years. So I've been completely blessed with a proper, you know, Baltic winter. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'm surviving, which I didn't think I'd be able to do. But you know, I was talking to someone the other day. I'm being interviewed because somebody's writing a book and she's interviewing people, and she was talking to me, and it took me back to when I was working, and the sort of the difference in my life now compared to back in London. And you know, the rat race. I was working shift work in hospitality, and I was doing. I mean, and you remember I was doing ridiculous hours. Do you remember? And I remember I had a panic attack at work, and this was after we'd started the podcast. And, you know, I was quite I felt like I was in a really good place. You know, I was doing the work. We were talking near weekly, and you know, I knew what was right. But even then, the situation I was in, the pressure that I was under, I had this panic attack, and I said to her, I had this feeling of feeling really ashamed that I'd crumbled. And I went outside, and this guy came out, and sat next to me to see if I was okay. And I was saying to him, I was like, "Oh, I'm really embarrassed. I'm really embarrassed." And I thought to myself, you know, going back to everything that we talk about the whole manning up thing, and everything that we know to be false, and what we know to be true, and yet still, even in that moment, after all the work I did, I had that moment of shame, and I was like, "Oh, you know, I'm apologizing for being human." And then, you know, I sort of I clicked. I was like, "Why am I apologizing?" You know, I we talk about this week in, week out, and we know that this is just part of life. And yeah, but it was bizarre. And I got off on a tangent here, but it just reminded me of, you know, how important it is to just, I guess, the daily reminders to keep doing the work. And, you know, even if you do have a wobble, dust yourself off, you know, get back up. Don't apologize for being human, because, you know, don't apologize for having a wobble. Don't apologize. Don't be embarrassed, and don't feel the shame. And
Yeah.
all of those things, I felt it all in that moment, and had sort of to have a word with myself like, "Guy, mate, you know better than this. Nothing to be ashamed of."
Absolutely, it's part of being a human, isn't it? Especially now we live in quite complex society and very complex lives we live. Do you guys ever get any sort of let's say unsavory comments on your podcast or on the content that you release?
Um,
We don't
No?
get any trolls. No, we've not had any sort of trolling or anything like that. Which I guess I guess you know, if we were like a politician or something like that, you'd expect it. But
Man,
I
I would
think
write a few myself.
yeah, yeah. But I think you've got to be a pretty mean spirited person,
Yeah.
and I know there are some really mean spirited people out there, but you've got to be really mean spirited to troll a couple of blokes who in their spare time are trying to make, you know, help people out a little bit, you know, which is what we're trying to do, isn't it, really, you
Yeah.
know, using our own experience. So we don't tend to. That's not to say we might do in the future. I mean, you know, we can both be a little bit outspoken sometimes. You know, I can be a bit political sometimes. You know, Tommy's you know, he some of the stuff he says is a bit brash, and you know, I don't know, I mean, you know, it's but we are where we are, you know, take us or leave us, I guess.
I tell you one thing we did get trolled on, and going back to being in the paper, when the paper sort of, you know, printed the thing, and there was a picture of Andy and I, and we were doing our man up thing. Sorry, you'll remember when you're a guest, we get our guests to do the
Yeah.
crazy face, and we had a picture like that. And in the comments, one of them were, I've not heard the podcast, but judging by the picture, it looks like a children's TV show.
Where was that? I didn't see that. Was it on the website? Was it
On the Telegraph website? Yeah. Oh, well,
Oh,
not read the podcast, but if the picture anything good to go by, it looks like a children's TV program.
well,
Well,
I mean,
far from, I would say.
I mean, I'm not one to, you know, but the Telegraph, you know, I mean, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds us
I was
or
going to
anything.
say, steady on, careful.
I don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, but some of the Telegraph readers probably have a few chips on their shoulders. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that. Controversy.
Controversy.
Ooh. Boop, boop, boop. But what I think is usually people that leave nasty comments is because not because there's something wrong about you, but because they're trying to communicate their wounds. Like somebody has, as you say, chip on the shoulders. Where can I let people know that I don't like this and that? And it's so easy these days because all you need is a computer or phone, and you're sitting behind a screen, and you don't take any responsibility for what you say. You can just call anybody whatever you want, even
Yeah.
though somebody's trying to do some good work.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to change it now. I mean I'm sort of in two minds, but they're trying to, you know, everyone every time sign on to a social media account or whatever, you have to verify who you are. Because at the moment you don't have to verify who you are. You can just set up an email address and that's it, basically. But now you have to properly set. So I don't know. I mean, the jury's out. Policing, the great thing and the worst thing about the internet is it's a free-for-all. So I think we've gone a little bit too far over to the sort of the dark side, really, and does need some sort of reining back. You know, when you see all those terrible comments about, you know, football Marcus Rashford and Ian Wright and people like that, then you think to yourself, do you know what, you know, they can't really get away with it. And it's 9 times out of 10 it's just some spotty kid or something. But you know, it might be but you're right, it's normally someone. It's not really about the person that they're trolling, it's more about how much that person hates their own life.
It's a projection usually. Yes, exactly. Gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap up. I really appreciate your time. I had fun talking to you as always. You're two legends, and I hope the Mana podcast will keep growing, and I hope you will continue becoming bigger and bigger legends. So one day I can tell my grandkids, look at these two guys, I used to know them, now they're rich and famous.
And I hope your podcast goes from strength to strength, but obviously not quite as big as our one. You know, like you can go big, but don't ever go above our one. That's all.
Stay in line, little boy. Is that what you're trying to say?
You know what we say. It doesn't matter who kicks the ball in the back of the net as long as we're winning.
Exactly.
I
thought Andy is going to say, "Be careful," because I know a guy in Estonia.
Yes,
he's gonna get you.
The hiker. They call him the hiker.
The hiker. Awesome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully see you soon on one of your meetings. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having us, man, and good luck with your podcast, man. I'm really proud of you, mate. Really proud of you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.